Welcome, everyone. Thank you for joining us for our weekly virtual meditation and wisdom teaching, Shanti in Place. If you are new to our virtual Sangha, welcome. If you are returning, welcome back. We're so grateful for this opportunity to gather once again in this new academic year. We are streaming as well on YouTube Live, and we want to invite you to, as you feel comfortable, either keep your camera on or off, but please do take a moment to make sure that your audio is muted so we can minimize distractions for one another and for ourselves. An invitation here to take a comfortable seat, a comfortable posture. If we are sitting in a chair, perhaps an opportunity to ground the feet to the floor beneath us with a little bit more intention and purpose. If we're sitting cross-legged, as I'm now transitioning to, taking a moment to align the spine in a posture of relaxation and comfort, but also of presence and focus and alertness. We can close the eyes here or simply soften the gaze, whatever feels more comfortable to us. Beginning to feel the body and mind perhaps naturally slowing down, coming to a little bit more calmness or quiet. For those of us who are newer to this particular practice or this particular gathering, we will begin our formal meditation sit with the ringing of the bell, and then taking 3 deep breaths together. We'll breathe deeply through the nostrils if we're able to, otherwise perhaps just softly between the lips. If we're breathing through the mouth, a good practice is to breathe just as if we've got a very slender straw between our lips and we're inhaling and exhaling through that straw. So either through the nose or the mouth, breathing deeply in, holding the breath for a few beats, and then releasing the breath, again, either through the nostrils or softly between the lips, perhaps elongating as we breathe out. After that, we will continue to sit in our meditation, and I'll offer some words of guidance. Please feel free to follow along as it resonates with you, or if perhaps your meditation is taking you in a different direction, that's okay as well. And then we'll close our meditation again with intentional deep breath and the ringing of the bell. Beginning. Taking 3 deep breaths together. Inhaling. Hold. And out. In. Hold, release. Last time, in, holding, letting it out. Continuing to breathe. If we'd like to, we can continue to do these elongated, deeper breaths, or simply allow the breath to find its own rhythm, its own flow, its own pace. Taking as long as we need without forcing or manipulating the breath in any way. Just allowing it to find where it wants to be. As the breath finds its rhythm, breathing in and out, simply noticing this flow. Noticing just means turning our awareness with intention to the breath. If we find ourselves tempted to judge or evaluate or analyze, we can simply recognize that and choose instead just to notice. There's nothing to change or to control or even to categorize. There's no right breath or wrong breath. There's simply this breath, this moment, and then the next one, and the next one after that. It's happening whether we're aware of it or not. But how wonderful to simply notice it, to allow our intention and our awareness just to rest on this breath. When our awareness rests on the breath, we are actually in the present moment. The breath that came before is gone. The breath that will come after it is yet to manifest. But this breath that sustains us right now, this is the present moment. If we notice our minds wanting to take us somewhere else, somewhere into the past, or perhaps into anxiousness or expectation for the future, to the things that we have to do, or even perhaps for some of us, to curiosity around when this meditation will end. Wherever our minds want to take us, we can simply and gently bring our minds back to this breath. My dear mind, there is nowhere else you need to be than right here in this moment, resting on this breath. You've done so much. You will do so much. Now is the time for rest. Not for doing, but simply for being. Please, my dear mind, simply rest on this breath. It's sometimes said that today, or even this very moment, is a gift. That's why they call it the present. Let us give ourselves and one another this most precious of gifts, just for a few moments more, perhaps, of resting in this moment. Bringing our meditation to a close now. We'll take one final deep breath, sealing our practice, sealing our intention, grounding ourselves in it, breathing in deeply through the nose or softly between the lips. And on the exhale, as is often done in the tradition of yoga practice, we will chant or perhaps simply hear and be present to the sound vibration of Om, the sacred sound that is believed to represent and embody eternality, infinity, and the expanse of the universe outside of ourselves and within ourselves. Breathing in deeply. Om. Gently and with ease, with kindness and in comfort, opening our eyes or widening our gaze, returning our awareness to the room that we're sitting in and to our virtual gathering together. Thank you all. I hope that was a meaningful experience, or perhaps even just an opportunity to catch our breath, so to speak. We'd like to sort of maintain the atmosphere a little bit longer, so I'm going to ask that you stay on mute. But if anyone feels inspired to drop a note in the chat box, no pressure or force by any means, but if you'd like to, just to give us a sense of where you're at, what you're feeling, how you're doing, feel free to do that. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. In our remaining minutes together, I'd just like to offer, as some of you know, we we often do with this meditation, a little wisdom teaching, a little something in yoga philosophy to ground and perhaps deepen our practice. I hope you can all see the screen. If someone can't see the screen, or if there's something going on the tech side, would you please just unmute and let me know? But hopefully you all can see this okay. So again, this program is called Shanti in Place. This is a program that we have been running virtually for about a year and a half now. We started just about the time that, or actually exactly at the time that so many of us went into a kind of the quarantine lockdown and remote activities, working from home. And so it was originally envisioned as a way to stay connected to our practice and stay connected to one another in that unusual set of circumstances. And it continues to serve that purpose, but I think it's also grown into an opportunity to really appreciate and deepen our experience with this practice, regardless of what else is happening as far as the state of the lockdown and quarantine. So we originally called it Shanti in Place, kind of as a play on shelter in place, but we found it sort of taken on a life of its own. And I want to just touch on that a little bit in today's session. The reflection for today, which in some ways grounds our weekly practice for the year to come. Peace as a state of place is fleeting and out of our control. Peace as a state of mind sustains and grounds us, irrespective of our external circumstances. There is a beautiful verse from the yoga text, a sacred text known as the Bhagavad Gita. In this verse, Krishna speaks, the speaker and teacher of the Gita, Sri Krishna, he reminds us of the importance of connecting within, of going within. And he speaks this very, very powerful verse in the 5th chapter. Yontaha sukhontar aramas tathantar jyotireva yaha sayogi brahma nirvanam brahma bhuto dikachati. He says, one whose happiness, sukha, is within, who is active and rejoices within, whose focus is within, such a person is the true yogi. Such a person is liberated in divine consciousness, Brahma Nirvanam. We see this word nirvana, which is common to Hindu and Buddhist traditions, and ultimately attains union with the divine, Brahma Bhuta. So this is what we're aiming for, what we're aiming towards in yoga philosophy and yoga practice and meditation practice, is this state of inner happiness, of inner activity, of having this rich inner life, rejoicing, Krishna says in the Gita, rejoicing within, experiencing that deeper sense of satisfaction. And sometimes when we imagine that, I know for myself, when I imagine that scenario, I can be an idealist. So I think in this very idealistic, romantic notion. And I think one day I will be like this image that we see on our screen, if you're following along. I will sit in the most pristine location, watching the sunrise, breathing in deep the wonderful pure air. I will be in nature. Everything will be ideal and calm and wonderful around me. And in such a place, I will experience Shanti. I will experience true peace. And yet for most of us, this image represents our reality a little bit more realistically, right? This is this is actually what, for many of us, our real meditation practice is life. It's like it's fitting it into a very busy life as parents, as students, um, as folks engaged in our jobs, in our work, in our study, in so many other things, other demands. And so sometimes we can think, well, how can I possibly cultivate Shanti, cultivate peace, cultivate calmness of mind, stillness of mind, groundedness, when this is my reality? And one of the reasons I think that what Krishna teaches in the Gita and what other yoga texts, the Yoga Sutras of Patanjali, the Upanishads, what other texts like this constantly remind us of, is the need to be less and less dependent on our external circumstances. That doesn't mean they're not real. That doesn't mean they don't have an effect. They don't need to be dealt with. But to more and more cultivate a practice of going within, irrespective of our external circumstances. If we can learn to do that, then whether we're sitting on the cliffside meditating in the ideal forest scenario, or whether we are in our homes or in our offices, or wherever we may be on the subway, we may be, in the midst of a very busy city, wherever we are, we can connect to that space, to that place within us, within the mind, within the heart, to cultivate Shanti, to cultivate peace and stillness. So when we talk about Shanti and place, we're really talking about a shift from Shanti as a state of place to Shanti as a state of mind, to peace as a state of mind. When we think of peace or Shanti as a state of place, as dependent on our place, on our external surroundings, those are important. That's one of the reasons why we say, okay, mute out your microphones, make sure you're in a common room, in a quiet room, maybe turn your phone off, right? Maybe dim the lights. So the place, the external surrounding does make a difference. But when we fixate on, or when we stress or emphasize the state of place, we set ourselves up for disappointment and frustration. Why? Because the place we have little or no control over, as we saw with the changes, and we are still seeing with the changes around living through and working in the pandemic. We have little or no control. Tomorrow, God forbid, we may there may be a spike in the numbers, and we may need to change the way we do things. Those of us who are working, who are back in the office or back on campus, we may be told, okay, we have to go back to our homes. For those of us, a situation can change. We may be working from home and we're told we have to come into the office. And in so many ways, big and small, we have little to no control over our place, isn't it? And yet we're constantly tempted to try to change that, to think, well, if only this, if only I could tweak that, if only I could change that, right? I remember when we first went from working in our offices to working remotely, there were many folks I know, many people reached out to me and told me about how difficult it was on their spiritual practices, how they felt like being at home, especially if you had little ones, or you had a partner that you were trying to share the space with, how it was so difficult. And interestingly, I'm hearing a lot of this, the same kind of energetically, the same or similar kinds of frustration and feelings of displacement with folks who are saying, I had such a nice spiritual practice, I had such a nice meditation practice when I was at home, and now going back to the office, it's so jarring. I feel like I can't keep up with my spiritual practices. So again, when we're focused on the external place, we have those challenges because we have little or no control, and there's constant change, it's fleeting, right? Our external circumstances and situation is constantly changing, and yet we're constantly tempted to try to control and to change the externals. When we shift to thinking of peace as a state of mind, the irony there is the state of mind is something that is largely within our control, right? Whatever is going on in the external world, we can, with practice, learn to control our state of mind. We are in charge of our state of mind in a way that no one else is. And yet the irony, the paradox is we're daunted to try to change it. We often feel like, well, I'm helpless. My mind just goes wherever it goes. With practice, we can learn to bring our mind back to this present moment. We can learn to control and guide and still our minds. And so this Shanti in place practice is very much a practice of learning to reorient ourselves to peace as a state of mind. Again, our reflection for today is peace as a state of place is fleeting and out of our control. Peace as a state of mind sustains and grounds us, irrespective of our external circumstances. As we continue with our weekly practices, we'll delve into some particular teachings and techniques for how to cultivate this Shanti in place, this Shanti as a state of mind, this Shanti or calmness of mind, wherever we are, in whatever external circumstances. So thank you all so much. We went a little bit past our time, but we're so grateful to have you with us. Please continue to join us if you're able to every Tuesday at noon. And I want to wish you a very blessed rest of your day and rest of your week. Thank you all so much. Thank you for your affirming words in the chat box as well, those of you who put some messages in the chat box. And looking forward to seeing you for our next gathering.